All right, for more on the Lubbuck Regional Historic, where Texas Tech winning the regional, first time they're going to the Super Regionals, where they'll take on Florida State. In front of us, a person that has covered Texas Tech all year. In fact, we hung out last week at the Big 12 tournament, and then she got to hang out and cover the Lubbuck Regional for Seeing Scarlet. She'll be joining us here on In the Circle at D1 Softball, powered by 643. Boy, you had a fun weekend, haven't you?
Yeah, it was quite the weekend out there at Rocky Johnson. Great atmosphere. So, I mean, I guess sold out crowds. I don't know how they designate that, but packed house, a lot of fun. Texas Tech fans are really excited about what's going on with the softball team for sure.
Let's talk about the atmosphere and the environment. What was it like on campus? What was it like in the city leading up to this? On the broadcast, it looked electric. It was packed. It looked like it was a incredible atmosphere. What was it like you being there in person?
Yeah, it was special. I mean, we've had some good crowds this year, but that was definitely the best. I don't know if they announced a attendance record or not. We set the attendance record back in the Oklahoma State series. It was close if they didn't set it again in this, but I mean, those outfield stands were packed. It sold out supposedly in 30 minutes on Wednesday morning leading up to the regional. And it was hot, y'all. This is the hottest weekend we've had this year for games. Sunburnt like a lobster, and everybody was. There's no shade at that stadium. I think that's a future renovation that'll come soon. There's no awnings, and the people stayed. They were there. They were loud. I mean, if you watch today's game, one of the coolest moments all season was Alana Johnson having a 17 or 18 pitch at bat to draw a walk, and the whole stand stood up and gave her a standing ovation for a walk because it was such an impressive at bat. These fans were just hungry. I was in the press conference tent afterwards, waiting for the players and Jerry to show up, and you could hear the fans chanting Jerry Glasgow's name as he walked through the crowd to the press conference. And NiJaree and Haley Tony was with them as well. They were chanting all their names. People are just excited, and they're just everybody loves a winner, right? But I think it's just really cool where we were to where we are now. A little bit of an underdog story, despite what the haters want to say. You know, this is somewhere that Texas Tech's never been, and in West Texas, that matters to be able to go out there and show people what we're made of. And this team really kind of embodies that spirit, and people have grown to love them for that reason. So it was really cool to get to see the players experience that as well, and to see them doing they do Raider power chants after every game, and doing those. It was really special environment for sure.
Sunday's game was rather dramatic, a 9-6 win. You know, you had
It
kind of
was.
coasted in the regional the first couple of wins over Brown, and then kind of dominated Mississippi State in the Saturday's winners bracket game. NiJaree was NiJaree in that game, but Sunday was interesting. NiJaree apparently with a
Mm-hmm.
blister issue, which we'll get to that in a moment, but Chloe Riaceto had to come in the game in the sixth inning and shut the door, and she did. You had Haley Tony, a freshman that I've grown to just enjoy watching
Love that
play.
kid.
Oh, I mean, two home runs in the game. This was a team win. I think that's something that needs to be sent there. Just describe the Sunday game, because it wasn't necessarily about NiJaree. It was about everybody else.
Yes, that's exactly what this game was. And of course, the person that wanted to make that clear more than anyone was NiJaree herself, because she gets asked to do every press conference, and she's about to leave the press conference today, and she says, "Hey," she stands up and says, "Hey, just one more thing. I want to make sure to shout out Chloe Riaceto for what she did out there for us." And Jerry Glasgow talked about it as well. Everybody did something. I think maybe everybody got on base at some point in this game, whether it was via walk or a sacrifice or a hit. Haley Tony, you talked about her, just a freshman in the nine hole, right? Her and Demi kind of trade out in the nine, or Alexa plays the two sometimes as well, and goes out there in the nine hole and doesn't just have two home runs. She has two leadoff home runs following 3-run innings from Mississippi State in their half of the inning. Then Haley Tony's up to bat to lead off both innings and hits a home run right after that. Just the momentum, the relentless attitude of this team, the mental toughness of this team has been a talking point from Jerry and the players all year about growing that mental toughness. And you don't win this game today on Sunday the way that Mississippi State refused to go away. NiJaree battling a blister. Jerry Glasgow said she could only throw two pitches today. She only had control of two pitches, and she was battling out there. Then Chloe Riaceto coming in there, big game money pitcher is what Glasgow says about her, and she absolutely was today. So everybody was involved. Logan Holloman, want to give a shout out to her. One of the 3 returners. She's done this all year. Comes in as a pinch hitter and just does her job. Gets a massive pinch hit in the first inning to get the scoring going. I mean, I could go through the whole lineup. Literally everybody contributed either defensively or offensively today. And I think that's important because the people that don't watch Texas Tech, they just want to talk about NiJaree, and it's well deserved. Listen, NiJaree deserves all the love and all that, but there's a lot of really good talented players on this team, and you saw that today, and you don't win this game today without everybody.
Especially this offense, which I think you would know. You and I have talked, wasn't like stellar early in the year. It was times where it looked ugly, and you wondered, and then it seemed like it has clicked recently. I know in talking to the coaching staff and some of the players last week in Oklahoma City, they felt they found something there, that it clicked in the Big 12 championship, and it carried over to this week into the regionals. How would you describe this offense and as far as this clicking and the kind of seemed to have turned a corner?
For sure. I think it just takes time, as anybody knows that's ever been a part of a team in their life or covered a team or followed a team. Was not easy what Texas Tech did here. They only 3 returners, 9 transfers, 9 true freshmen. You get together in the fall and you have all this expectation on you because of the talent they brought in. Like, oh, this team's going to go to a regional. They're going to do all these things that have never been done before. And they're just supposed to go out and do it, right? Because everyone thinks you're going to do it. And so I think at times they were pressing, but also they just weren't trusting each other. And that's something the players have talked about a lot over the last couple of weeks, is that they really trust each other now and that they're playing for each other. And Lauren Allred said this yesterday, and she was in the post-game press conference. And she said, when you're playing for your teammates, it takes the pressure off you because you're playing for them. And I feel like that's where this team turned a corner. Obviously, getting a Demi Elder back mid-year from injury was a big part of that as well. And that team chemistry, and she kind of bridged that gap, I think, between new and old a little bit. But just the chemistry all around, everybody has bought into their role. We have a couple of pinch hitters, Logan Holloman, Reagan Jennings as well. They just come in and do their job. And then some good senior leadership mixed in with some really young players that maybe sometimes, like, it's better to not know what you don't know on this stage sometimes. And you saw that today with Haley Toney. So yeah, I think it's the chemistry, the trust aspect. That's, if you talk to any of these players, they say that constantly, is like, yeah, we just trust each other right now and we're playing for each other.
All right, let's talk about the NiJaree injury. It was a blister. You kind of alluded to what was Jerry said in the postgame. Do we know when this blister started? Because she looked fine yesterday. Was this before the game? And what was said in the postgame about it?
Yeah, they didn't bring it up too much in the postgame, and I haven't gotten to rewatch the broadcast yet, but I think he said something about it on the broadcast during the game, is how it came up that people would know about it. He was interviewed, so he might have said more details than that. But just after in the post game, he just mentioned that she really only had 2 pitches, control of 2 pitches. I don't want to misspeak and say which ones, but she just didn't have her full arsenal out there. And when you have as good of a hitting team as Mississippi State and first team all SEC players over there on the other side, you give them only 2 pitches, they're going to time those up pretty quick, especially after they've seen her so much over the last 24 hours and earlier in the year. So she battled for sure. She didn't look like she was super uncomfortable in the press conference, but I don't want to speak for NiJaree on how serious or not it is. There was no word on that in the post game. Hopefully, it'll be fine. She get some rest and get it right for Tallahassee. That's obviously something to monitor for sure. But she seemed okay in the post game, but you don't know.
Well, it was funny too, because the broadcast, as soon as they took her out, they were already thinking Game 7, like, oh, I don't know if she could pitch Game 7 or everything.
Like, the disrespect.
It's like, whoa. Meanwhile, Chloe Riasetto
put some respect on Chloe Riasetto's name.
But that's what I wanted to ask you about. That's why I wanted to ask you about her, because she's in that number 2 spot, overshadowed by NiJaree. It is worth noting that NiJaree also gave her the shout out because ESPN interviewed her, of course, in the post game, and she mentioned Chloe there, which shows her what a great teammate that she's in. But talk about Chloe in the year she's had, because it's kind of a no-win situation, right? When she pitches, people are wondering, hey, why isn't NiJaree pitching and all that stuff? When do you bring her? When do you not? This was a huge moment for her in her career.
Absolutely. And she is just calm. She pitches to contact. I mean, she came in the game with 1 runner on, and I literally, I'm covering the team, so I'm monitoring all the places that I'm doing. There's live chats going that I'm taking part in, helping them. I said, this is perfect. Chloe's a pitch to contact type. Comes in here, let's get a double play and let's go to work. And that's exactly what she did. Jerry Glasgow has said multiple times. I mean, she stepped up huge for us earlier in the year. There is a lot of talk about sometimes she comes in and it's such a difference from NiJaree and the way she pitches, and she's going to let base runners on because, again, pitch to contact, it's not going to be as quote unquote dominant. But her stats are really good this year. You know what I mean? Like, you look at her ERA, like 2.17 or 2.15 or something coming into the game today. Like, she's been a good pitcher for them over almost 100 innings pitched. It's a hard role. That'd be a great question for her. Y'all should get her on the show if you can. It's not an easy role to pitch behind NiJaree, to have to take on that role, and she's done it well, never complained, and stepped up multiple times. She won us the Big 12 championship earlier this year, went head to head with Kinsey Brown for about 5-6 innings, and then NiJaree closed it out. But it was Chloe that went head to head with Kinsey Brown in that clinching game to win the Big 12 championship against Arizona State. She came in, I guess, in our first game of the regional and closed it out after Sam Lincoln did a great job to start the game, and then she closed it out here. So I know some people are nervous. I really wasn't. I was like, this is a good move. You know, NiJaree's battled. She was a warrior. This is Chloe's spot to go out there and do it. Big game money pitcher. That's what Jerry Glasgow calls her, and that's what she was. I would call it a dog. I always say she has dog DNA in her. And Chloe Riaceto dog was the tweet I sent out after this game.
Well, I think the other factor too is Mississippi State probably had not seen Chloe. Because even going back to Clearwater, I believe it was NiJaree they saw, and there was a lot. In fact, they brought that up on the broadcast how they saw her earlier in Clearwater, and I believe
Coach Ricketts brought that up in the post game. We got to be there for that, and she said it's just such a different look when you've been seeing NiJaree all game, and you know what she throws, her speed coming from the right side. She said it was a great coaching move by Texas Tech to bring her in right there. It was just a completely different look from NiJaree. The speed, also from the left side. Just different types of pitchers, and she talked about how it was a good pairing with those two, just because of what it shows a hitter, and in that big moment to come out there and do that. And I believe she did it against Sia Sacco as well. I think she had a big hitter up there to go against. It wasn't like it was the bottom of the lineup that she did that against.
No, she got Sacco big time out there. You mentioned Mississippi State and Coach Ricketts. This was a stacked regional. This was a regional that ESPN sent its A team to, so it tells you they got the marquee coverage, if you will. What was your thoughts seeing Mississippi State, a really good ball club, in Washington? This was not given to Texas Tech. They had to earn this regional. I know they didn't get to see a young Washington team with DeBoer, their young first baseman, that, of course, is the daughter of Kalen DeBoer, the head coach of Alabama. But what was your thoughts on this regional as a whole from the opposition side?
Yeah, I was really impressed with all of them, even Brown. I was very impressed with Brown when we played them. Thought they were a very well-coached team, really good defensively, really impressed with that head coach, both in-game, how she handled it, how she handled the press conference. So I was impressed with them to start it off. And then Washington, we didn't get to play against them, but I did get to watch their games. Man, they can hit. And I said that on our show coming into the game. I was like, if we face with Washington, the one thing that concerns me is they got some power hitters, and the ball flies in Lubbock this time of year. We had 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts today. It was wild. But even on normal days, it flies well. And you saw them. They were hitting bombs. I think if they just had a little bit more pitching, that's what everybody says. That team, as young as they are, could do some damage if they get a little more depth there. And then Mississippi State, good mix of young and old in this. And they had some freshmen that really showed out. And their seniors did what they did. Really impressed with Raylan Chafin. Just put that team on her back. But I mean, she went 7 innings, or basically 6 innings last night. Didn't come out of this game, I don't believe, today in the Sunday game. Just what she's been through off the field and on the field, the adversity, the toughness of that team. Yeah, and then yesterday's Washington, I guess Saturday night, depending on when you're listening to this, Washington and Mississippi State elimination game was an absolute doozy, like instant regional classic, back and forth. You'd think Mississippi State had Washington put to bed and they came back. I just thought the resilience in this regional was impressive from both teams, and Mississippi State gave us their best shot today against Texas Tech. You saw that resilience again, and Texas Tech fought back too. So I think it's just a good group of teams. All 4 teams I thought really showed themselves well, and should be proud of what happened in Lubbock this weekend.
How was Jerry in the post-game presser? I've known Jerry for a long time. He's very self-deprecating. For a long time, he would make fun of himself because he couldn't get out of a regional for many times until he finally broke through a couple of years ago at Louisiana, winning at Baton Rouge Regional. And now, he wins a Big 12 title. He makes this big move which he has told the story ad nauseum. It was interesting to hear. It felt like ESPN telling the stories. I'm like, oh, okay, welcome to the. Yes, we've known this for months, but I guess they're telling for the national
Welcome
casual
to
audience.
Lubbock.
Right. But he's talked about it. Like the reason he even got interest was because they reached out to Tara first, and then they reached out to him to kind of recommendation. Next thing you know, oh well, I'm interested, and all the rest, as they say, is history. How was he in the post game after this regional win?
I mean, all three post games, giddy would be the word that I would describe about him since last Sunday when they had the selection show. He's just, I think he's really proud of this team, and he's talked a lot this week and after every game about how hard the practices were early in the year, and that's been a theme you've heard players talk about it and how much they've gotten better. But even today, he said, sometimes I'm driving back from practice in the fall. I'm like, man, was I too hard on him? Was I too hard on him? And you could just tell he really loves this team. And then he's like, today is why we had all those hard practices and all those things, is because this is like a tough team. You have to be a tough team to win in this type of shootout with Mississippi State. So he just seemed really happy and thankful and just really proud today of his players. And Haley Tony and NiJaree Canady were in the post game with him, and he was proud of them for two different reasons: for her battling like a warrior and Haley stepping up. He talked about how he told the team right after the game that, hey, let's take advantage of this moment, like, going to the supers. He's like, my first year, I guess, as an assistant is probably what he's talking about. He made the College World Series, I guess that would have been with Georgia. Y'all can go back and look at the at the history of it, but he just talked about how my first year I made it there, and I thought that's just how it's always going to be. And then it was a long time until I got back there again, and so we're gonna, let's take advantage of this. So he was just really thankful, really giddy, and just really proud of his team. It's like every press conference he wanted to make sure that it was them, because people would ask him, kind of said self-deprecation, like, what'd you do here? What did you do here to help them? And he's like, it's them. It's the players. They figured it out, so on and so forth. So yeah, you can probably find these press conferences on like Texas Tech TV or something like that online if you want to watch them in full, but they're out there somewhere.
Yes, of course, he does tend to talk for a while. As we all know,
he does. They're lengthy press conferences every time. You don't have to ask Jerry a lot of questions. He'll do it for you. It's an easy gig.
He likes to answer questions, even if you didn't ask it yet. By the way, that was Georgia, what you're referring to, when he was there under Lou Harris-Champer, who really he owes a lot to. I mean, brought him into the sport of softball. For sure. Let me ask you, somebody who went to school there. You've been a fan. You've been a media person. You've seen it all. You've covered the Final Four, I believe, right? When the men's team got to a Final Four.
I was just there as a fan.
Right. But you've seen it all. You've seen some of the great sports moments in Texas Tech athletics recently. Where does this rank?
Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, it's up there, and I'm a little closer to this situation for sure. But when you do something for the first time in school history, it's got to be up there, right? That no team has ever done this, make it to a super regional. No team had won the Big 12. No team had won the Big 12 tournament. The list goes on. They have the record for shutouts in a season, stolen bases, and probably 900 things that I'm forgetting right now. They've set so many records. This moment was just really cool. The team was doing their little Raider Power thing after the game. I just looked down there and you could see the coaches just staring up into the stands. And you could see fans that I've talked to at some points this year they've been coming to these games for 20 years. And you could just see them crying in the stands, or as we say in West Texas, got a little West Texas in my eye. A lot of people, it's special for sure. And they're not done yet. And they were very poised in the post game. This team has not celebrated anything. There was just a mild celebration even after this. They're very focused on what's next. But for the school, for the fans, this is special. I talked about that earlier. It's just, it's different in West Texas. You sometimes people like to make their jokes and all the things about Texas Tech. A lot of people had a lot to say when NiJaree Canady and Jerry Glasgow and all these players decided to come to Texas Tech. There was a lot of, Texas Tech? Who? Well, I think we made them know who Texas Tech is. And I think that's the biggest part about this is they know now. What Lubbock and Texas Tech are about.
They'll go to Tallahassee to take Florida State. That's going to be a anticipated super regional matchup that I think will be going to create a lot of conversation this week. I am curious from a Texas Tech fan standpoint, because you mentioned Jerry got here, NiJaree, their goal is to get to Oklahoma City. That is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
For the fans, is it World Series or bust, or is this season already a success? It's just a question of how successful.
Yeah, I think the general consensus around the fan base all year is like, hey, hosting a regional will be really cool. And then when it became clear, like, hey, they're going to be able to do that, you've heard a lot of people say anything after a regional is gravy. I think that's what a lot of fans have said. So no, I don't think they're going to be like, well, that was an epic failure if they don't make the World Series at all. I think people are pretty proud of what this team has done in year one. They know they return a lot. There's only 2 players that are out of eligibility from this team. And all that stuff will happen in a few weeks as far as offseason moves and all that. But yeah, fans are proud of this group forever. As we've said many times covering the team, writing stories, they've already written their name into Texas Tech history books. Now it's like, hey, do you want to go be a legend if you go make it to the World Series and do more? But people are going to remember this team for a long time for what they did. It's kind of similar to baseball back in 2014. They made the first super. Now they ended up going all the way. We'll see if this team can make it to the World Series as well. But very similar feeling and vibes from the fans. Like, we're proud of them for sure, no matter what happens from here on out. But the team is very focused, and they've said it all year that Oklahoma City was their goal, and we'll see if they can do that.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to bring it up, because I think it struck me being around it last week. You've been around it a lot longer than I have. Obviously, I just kind of witnessed it in person a week ago, and just talking to people. It seems like there's been a meteoric rise with the softball with Texas Tech fans. And yes, is some of this bandwagon? Sure. But hey, welcome to sports fandom. That's what everybody has bandwagon fans, right? I don't think everybody was a diehard Chiefs fan all of a sudden when they started winning Super Bowls. They just kind of hopped in the Patrick Mahomes bandwagon, Red Raider alum himself. I don't know if that got mentioned a few times on the broadcast. I know you're shocked by that. But where is
Shocking.
Texas?
I bet he was watching.
I bet he was. Where is Texas Tech softball right now in the total poll among Texas Tech athletics? Because I mean, you and I have talked now. We've gotten to know each other for over a year. In fact, we met basically because Texas Tech missed the tournament last year. But softball was not a hotbed at that time. You lost coaches in part, and people wondered if Texas Tech could ever win. Certainly football is big. Men's basketball has had a great run in recent years under 2 different head coaches, recently up to the Elite Eight. Baseball's had a great tradition, as you mentioned, getting to Omaha. Where is softball now as far as interest at Texas Tech fans versus where it was prior to this year?
I mean, I'd say night and day from this year to last year, right? And that was a solid team. You just said that they were a bubble team to make the tournament and probably should have been in there and got gypped, but I'll forever shout out that team. And we had a player on from that past regime last week talking about that. But yeah, everybody loves to win, and I've talked about West Texas and Texas Tech a lot, but this is a true college town, and they're going to support their own. And I think now that they've seen it, there's a lot of people certainly that came to this regional that maybe hadn't even seen a game yet this year, or whatever it was, and they kind of fell in love with the sport of softball. And that's been the general consensus. Part of my job, I work on the side for Red River Sports while also doing this podcast, is running game threads and keeping people on that website kind of engaged and teaching them stories. And I got a message today that said, of course, NiJaree Canady, the sellers and all that are a huge part of this success, but just wanted to say thanks, Shelby, for sharing these stories, because we wouldn't have known about this team and all that. And it's the truth, right? Until you tell them about it, they don't show up, right? And I'm not the only one. There's tons of media that we're here as well today, and fans have kind of just grown to love different players on this team for different reasons. The returners, of course, the new players, and they're becoming legends in town for sure. I saw Alana Johnson getting mobbed. I think it was Saturday. She was just trying to watch the other games out at the ballpark, and every step she took around a corner, people are running up to her and saying congrats and wanting an autograph and things like that. So I don't know about the ranking in terms of sports. I mean, right now, them in track just won 2 Big 12 championships last night as well. Again, and now you got softball. So if they're going to keep winning, this is going to become the norm on Lubbock, and it's going to be packed out like that all the time, I think, especially once they get some shade out there. Please.
Yeah. What is it all like? Shade. Yeah, like at UCF, we need shade. Texas, they were talking about they need shade. We need shade everywhere, man. Holy man.
Be hot out there, yeah.
Well, it should be fun. Yeah, steps. Well, it should be fun. It's been a historic year, and it'll continue. Texas Tech will go to Tallahassee and Florida State Super Regionals. I know you're going to get coverage of that. Tell the audience where they can find your content, your work here as you follow this team.
For sure. I main thing y'all most people know me for is Seeing Scarlet. It's a show, a podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's mostly on YouTube, so you can find at Seeing Scarlet on YouTube. Very, very active on Twitter or X, if y'all actually call it that. I still say Twitter. We'll be tweeting up a storm videos, clips from player interviews, and then we have a weekly show every week, usually on Monday or Tuesday. Just depends on when we can get together. And we'll try to have sometimes former players, sometimes current players, just depends on their schedule. If not, it's just me and my co-host there recapping the whole week. We got highlights, we have a good time. Yeah, that's where you can find our stuff. Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram and all that too, but big one's Twitter. And then I also write for RedRaidersports.com. So if you want to read recaps and stuff of the team, that's all on their website. You can find that there. So
good stuff. You're busy. You're a busy person. And hardworking. But hey, listen, I appreciate you.
They deserve it. They deserve it.
Good. I appreciate you coming on. I know it's a busy time. Good luck. We'll be in touch, and we'll see where the road takes you. But thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll talk Texas Tech sports to a wall, as I always say. So it's always great to do it with another person.